Craig, Corey Perry was pretty ticked off at himself for not noticing what happened to Skinner and for not stepping in. And by the sounds of it, he's going to have a conversation with his teammates about it as well. What did you think of the Oilers' lack of response to Rantanen knocking Skinner out of the game?
Lack of response. It's an incidental contact situation, Gino. There's no ability for anybody to avoid it. It just happened. You watch Rantanen, he's trying to get on the puck. You got Skinner coming out. It's one of those plays that just went wrong for Stuart Skinner. So now you're going to respond to every single incidental contact issue that comes along in the game. Corey Perry, who's made his living disrupting goaltenders, being in and around the net and being a thorn in opponent's side, should know that better than anybody. And this is none of that. This is just simply a play that ended up on the wrong side for Stuart Skinner. It doesn't deserve a response. Corey Perry doesn't need to beat himself up on a response. And so now every single one of these little microaggressions, as outlined by Corey Perry and the Edmonton Oilers, what, you're going to address them? No way. I don't see any issue with it. I don't think there's anything to need to talk about. And I don't think there was a lack of response. I don't think a response was necessary in that situation.
Okay, but there is one issue we really cannot debate, and that's the Oilers' injury woes right now. With both goaltenders getting bumped, they made an emergency call-up for the minors, and of course, McDavid, Draisaitl, Frederic, all still out for a little while. What are you looking to see from the survivors over this next little stretch?
Well, I mean, we're talking about trying to put your best, healthiest lineup out on the ice. Bottom line, it's not going to be anywhere near as good as when you have those players in your lineup, namely Draisaitl and McDavid. So what you're trying to do, and Daryl Sutter always used to emphasize this with players that had to step in, play a little bit more. I'm not going to ask you to do anything more than you're capable of doing. Just do what you're capable of doing. And I will put you in those situations. You're going to have different expectations for your team. You're going to have different expectations for those players. And that's the job of the coaching staff, to be able to do that and to convey that. They're not going to be able to be a swashbuckling offensive team without Draisaitl and McDavid. So they're going to have to go about their business a little bit differently. But I also think that it can serve you well to know that you can find a way to be competitive with the absence of these superstars.
As somebody in management, or even as a coach, when you watch guys play under this kind of duress, when they're being asked to do a little more than they ordinarily would to fill in some holes, what does that tell you about the character of the players that are able to do that?
Well, I think it's just more intel, Gino. It's an opportunity to see players being asked to do different things, to being asked to do a little bit more. And then you're also able to see, oh boy, I didn't think he could do that much more, and now he can. It gives you some reassurances that players are capable of more, or the understanding that maybe we cannot scale a player that far up the lineup, and we have to make sure that we understand that. You can put players in the uniform. They're not going to replace top-end players. They can't. The way they play, who they play against, the way they carry play, you're never going to do that. So understanding that players can't do it or are not capable of doing it on any sustained period of time, I think that now you can get a really good glimpse of what your team is capable of, and then the necessary adjustments that have to take place to still remain competitive.
The Oilers have slipped to third in the Pacific, which means they'd start the playoffs on the road if they started today. Not good news for a team that was just one game over 500 on the road in last year's playoffs, despite making it all the way to the Stanley Cup final.